Fáilte. So I'm here again for Folklore Friday. I haven't done my full complement of videos this week because I've been sick, and even though I'm coming to you from my bed office today, I have been working all day, and I'm here on doctor's orders, bed rest. I'm getting better, so that's all good. Thank you for all your concern and your messages and all the rest of it. So I'm grand, and I've been doing some work today on the next school. The Irish Pagan School, the next class that we have running is Irish Mythical Creatures. So I've been doing a bit of research today. That's running live at the end of June, and if it's after June, then it'll be available for download in the Irish Pagan School. The link is below. So I came across some great stuff on the Púca, and I think for most people, they're only really familiar with the Púca as like the horse in Derby O'Gill, which there is a lot more about the Púca and to the Púca in Ireland. So, and it's really, really varied across the country. So I had a little dig through Dúchas, and all the links to the source material that we're going to look at today are all below as well. And thank you to Dúchas for their amazing work. So we're going to start over here just with a really quick look from Fairy Lore. We have from Castlepollard in County Westmeath, Mrs. Davitt's class, and she's talking about it's a typo here. It should be the Lanahan or the Lannan who tempts the love of poets, and talk below about witches and stuff. And you can go and have a look at the link to this. But the bit that I wanted to look at is the middle bit here. The Púca is said to be a tricky goat-shaped sprite who haunts wells and taints fruit. Children have a dread of his tainting blackberries after the 23rd of September, after which date they will not eat any of the fruit. Now that's an interesting one because usually it's Halloween, and certainly when I was growing up, we would have heard that the Púca spits on the blackberries after Halloween, so you're not allowed to eat them. Occasionally somebody would say that it's the devil or the devil, so that's just the devil being swapped in if they didn't want to talk about the fairies, but it's the same principle applies. Excuse me, still sick. And you've got that kind of harvest connection there. The haunt in wells is interesting as well. So there's an association with water. But we are going to, there is another story. Now, the story that I found is also from Castlepollard, also from Mrs. Davitt's classroom. It's called Bob, Buckley and the Púca. And it's really long. And honestly, this is an excerpt. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But if you are interested, it's actually a fascinating and kind of hilarious story. So if you are interested, leave a comment below if you want to hear the full Bob, Buckley and the Púca story from County Westmeath. And I will see if I can get that up for one of our Folklore Friday videos. But we're going to dip in a little bit where Bob is talking to a gang of lads. There's or actually people, I think there's a woman there as well. So they're all standing around chatting about some elfala. Starts off with some elfala who was always apparently busy cobbling the one eld shoe. And that's how he came by his name, observed Darby. Lap Brogan, the half shoemaker. Half in this case meaning half of a pain, for when he mends one, he sends it home and gets back the other one. And who is his messenger, does anybody know? Cut in Billy Breen, who thought it better to take out a few points and not leave all the running to Logan. He's not above his own business, he's not. And when he wants to go a journey, he just mounts a Púca. And my word for it, he won't be long crossing the side of the county, so he won't. Now, that is so Roscommon, Westmeath, kind of that region. Between that and the Gossan that they're talking about below. But Bedad is very much from that region. So anyway, this lad is getting up on a Púca and riding him on purpose, which is interesting. The Púca, sure Darby, I always thought that lad was a kind of horned ass, trying to get some innocent gossan to ride him until he'd play the devil with them. And that now is the most common way that we see the Púca and anybody riding on him. Is and we'll see another example of that a little bit later on. Just go on to the next page here. You're not too far out, Billy a Vic. He's the limb of the devil, all right. And he has none of the harmless donkey about him, though he might dander by you in that shape if you happen to meet him on the road. Billy was knocked into a brown study. Now, I've never heard knocked into a brown study before, but I'm going to say shocked is what it means just from the context here. Only the previous night he was sorely tempted to take a rise upon a wandering donkey as he passed his father's gate. In fact, it was the negative shake of his head and the wide pendant switch of his tail that decided the matter. And now to think that the brute might have been a Púca travelling incognito. It was a reflection almost deep enough for tears. Them Púcas are supposed to spoil the fruit growing in gardens about Hollantide. Hollantide would be Samhain as well. Halloween, remarked Dick. They do indeed, said Darby, but they fix a written notice to every tree they meddle with, which seems fair. Which seems fair enough, only nobody can make out the Púca's writing but himself. That was a new one on me, and I wanted to share that with you as well. So, it's all coshcínta, fireside talk, and nonsense, asserted Billy. Coshcínta is a lovely turn of phrase as well. It could also mean crying. Quinta would be crying as well as talking, I suppose. It's all coshcínta and nonsense, asserted Billy, who could ever show proof that he ever encountered either a leprechaun or a Púca. Billy's a bit of a hypocrite, maybe. I knew one, said Darby solemnly, that had the misfortune to get into contact with both, and that was Bob Buckley, half-brother to Ger Toomey that I told yous about. The poor foolish Amadon, commended Biddy. Now, we're going to leave that there, but like I said, if you do want to hear the rest of Bob Buckley and the Púca, then leave a comment below and I will dig that out and we'll have a look through it, okay? So we're going to move from here to County Limerick. And there's discussion of a Púca from Pádraig O'Callagh's classroom here in Anglesborough in County Limerick. So it says, my aunt's husband, Michael Coughlin, was an extensive farmer who lived in Ballindangan, Fermoy, County Cork. And he told me this story which happened in Ballindangan about 100 years ago. The Púca used to appear there in the shape of a big donkey. One night, a neighbouring farmer, who used to keep a lot of horses, was going by his stables, when who should come up behind him but the Púca himself, and with one drive of his head, he tossed him up on his back, and away with them helter-skelter over the hedges and the ditches like the She Gui. The She Gui is the fairy wind, just for anybody who's not familiar. It was a very wet, stormy night, but the Púca did not mind, and at last, after covering about 5 miles, he tossed off the poor farmer with one raid into the bog hole. The poor old farmer was hardly able to drag himself out of the bog hole, he felt so tired after his drive on the Púca's back. After a while, he managed to drag himself out, and then he had to start his long walk home through the wind and the rain. When he got home, he was drenched to the skin. Poor old farmer. Extensive farmer, if you don't mind. And then we're going to go to Ardnacally in County Mayo, to Tomás de Bruin's classroom. So this little story starts long ago when fairies were very plentiful in Ireland, very plenty in Ireland. There lived in a certain village in a county of Roscommon a man named Paddy Ward. Now this is from Mayo, but Roscommon and Mayo are border counties. One wet November's night, as Paddy was coming home from a dance, he took shelter from a big shower in an old castle, and being tired after his long walk, fell asleep. And he was awakened by a Púca in the form of a big red bull. The Púca said to Paddy, "Jump upon my back at once." And before Paddy had time to do so, the Púca threw him over his horns, with his face turned to the tail of the Púca. Away went Paddy and the Púca as fast as the wind, through the rivers, lakes, bushes, briars, and mountains, until they had travelled through the length and breadth of Ireland. Paddy was screaming and roaring to the Púca to let him off his back. The Púca paid no heed to him. He kept going until the hour before daybreak, and he threw Paddy off his back, where he found him. So Paddy, poor old Paddy, was tattered and torn wet and covered with mud, and trying to recover from his Púca. If I remember correctly in this story, it took him a month to even get out of bed. Hopefully it won't take me a month to get out of bed now. When he reached home, he went to bed and he remained in bed for a month, and it was 3 months before he was recovered after his adventures with the Púca. Paddy took good care he was not outdoors any November's night since. November's night then would be another word for Halloween or Samhain. So we see that there is very much connection with, there's a goat shape Púca, there is donkeys and asses, there is a big red bull, and I haven't seen it red before. Now that was an interesting one as well. And I think the red is probably the other world connection. Generally the Púca is given as like a black or a really dark green, and a lot of the she creatures like the coo she, the fairy hound, would be seen as that kind of blacky darky green. And the cot she as well usually. Although seeing them red or white or red with white ears is another indicator that they are otherworldly creatures. So we have that, and we have the different shapes. We have the association with wells. We have the Púca's handwriting. Now I thought that was interesting too. Nobody could read the Púca's handwriting, but it was very conscientiously, it would leave a note attached to the trees of anything that it had spit on or poisoned. So I'd never heard that before, so that was an interesting little one as well. But obviously we do see that there's mischief and there's interference, and that's very much a common kind of fairy trait as well, that they will either take to riding animals like dogs or sheep or cattle sometimes as well, but usually dogs or sheep, and they'll ride them around all night until they're exhausted and they may even get sick from it. Or they'll turn a human into something and ride that around, or they'll throw the human up on their back, as the Púca's doing here. So you've got this kind of very mischievous energy going on, obviously. And mischievous, actually, I mean, it's kind of dangerous. Poor old Paddy. Back in the day, if you had to have 3 months out of work, he'd be awful poverty stricken by the end of it as well, you know, and his whole household would go to bits. So so the moral of the story here, folks, I was going to say, I was going to use gender terms, but we don't need to do that. So folks, the moral of the story here is that we don't mess with the fairies. Don't mess with the Púcas. They are not some harmless little puck sprite energy. They are pretty serious beings who can actually do a lot of damage. So, I mean, that's really the moral of the story for all the fairy stuff from Ireland, really, isn't it? If you watch any of my other videos, any of the folklore stuff, you'll soon start to get the picture, which is why we're doing this. So if you like this and you want more, then subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. I do try and do videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, usually without so much coughing. Please forgive me. And give it a like and let me know if you want to hear the full story of Bob Buckley, because I can do that. We're probably going to do more on mythical creatures this month. Do go over to irishpaganschool.com. The link is below if you want to check out that class. Okay, so slán go fóill, and I will see you in the next video.